I feel like you're lost. What?
There's a delay always.
Yeah, but it's usually not this long. I feel like that's just frozen.
Okay. There we go.
Here we are. We are live. Welcome to From the Ground Up podcast, Mardi Gras edition.
Mardi Gras edition.
Did I pronounce that good enough for you?
Yes. I just dropped the R, but I don't expect the rest of the world to drop the R. I say Mardi Gras, but which is perfect because we have guests on today who drop a lot of letters in their speaking.
I barely know what they're talking about half the time, you know?
So it's perfect. But yes, our friend James Lewis and his wife Katie, they still live in Louisiana, and they sent us some Mardi Gras goodies. Yes. Which, if you don't know, Mardi Gras is also known as Fat Tuesday in New Orleans, and it's just
we were also supposed to say all the beginning stuff before we got into the Mardi Gras stuff. So Patreon, thank you guys so much for supporting us as far as that goes, and t-shirts are on Theportcitypythons.com. That's all I got for you.
Wow. Okay, cool. Thanks. That really needed to happen right then. Shit.
Got to keep them on their
Mardi
toes.
Gras is a big parade, and it's like a 5-day party basically, but it culminates on Fat Tuesday where the biggest parades happen, and it's just all about happiness and catching beads and alcohol. So they sent us a lot of beads and some king cake, and if you listen to the last podcast where we talked about drinks we never want to drink again in life, our friend James sent us a drink I never want to drink again, but...
Do you know what Taka is? Let's start with the brand.
I have not drank Taka since I was 17 years old because I swore it off. It is poison.
And it has a plastic top, which is usually a good sign that it's very
it's
low
real
level,
classy.
but it is king cake flavor. So,
which if you've never had king cake, imagine like a cinnamon roll with cream cheese and sprinkles in vodka. It's not.
All right, so we're going to do a shot of this Taka. And to be honest, I don't really drink liquor ever. And I guess we should say, guys, we are not promoting drinking alcohol unless, of course, you're 21. Do what you want.
Babe, we drink every day every time on this podcast.
True, we don't bring it out. So.
We don't do special occasion.
Oh, man, if you guys see me throw up, this is going to be terrible. Thank you, James.
Oh, wait, I have to get my chaser
ready.
Actually,
thank you, James, for the... Actually, this smells like king cake.
Oh, really? What the fuck did you think it smelled
like?
He
also sent me, like, these awesome, like, posters. I'm not sure exactly what you would call them that have a bunch of, like, native animals, native plants, native fish, all this stuff on them from, like, I don't know, the forestry department or something like that. So that was really, really awesome. I'm going to frame a bunch of those and hopefully put them up around the house or in the reptile room. So that was super awesome. So I would say that
it makes up
tenfold for having me drinking.
Oh, and it's not cold. We left it in the house,
but it smells good. It smells like what is king snake or king snake?
King snake. Yeah, what does king snake smell like? It kind of smells like almond, vanilla, amaretto, a little bit.
I feel like we're doing like a shitty food podcast
review. Right? We're making this take too long. We're really good
what are we doing?
We're really good at making things take too long.
All right.
Well,
cheers. What do you say during Mardi Gras?
Oh, laissez le bon temps rouler.
True. All right, that was very easy actually. That we can drink that. Well, yeah. And
notice our chasers are wine and beer.
It tastes like king cake. I gotta say that actually tastes like king cake.
I feel like you're like a person. Like coffee flavored things taste like coffee. No shit.
Yeah, but they usually taste like there's like some blueberry stuff that will taste like straight chemicals. Like there's like strawberry or
true.
You know, there's so many candies that are supposed to taste like things.
It tastes like poison filled king cake.
Yeah, it feels like you could definitely black out easily by drinking that all day. So, and it says imitation king cake flavored vodka, as if they were going to put real king cake in there. So that's something to note.
Just they wanted you to make sure that you knew that they did not actually.
I would have thought it was the real thing.
Blend up king cake and put it in the street.
Under the ingredient, king cake. So we have today, Sunday. We're doing this during the middle of the day. We're not doing it for our health. We have people coming in all the way from the pond. UK. From across, what is that?
Across the pond.
Was that supposed to be an You did half of it, and that Ponto's kind of. We're not going to start it with the accents. They made me do an accent last time, and someone already commented on the picture saying, "Well, Clayton said, are you going to do the accent on the radio?" I can't believe I just called it a radio like this is 1940, but.
Hey, this is so bad. This is so bad. Okay, but we're so excited to have them on. And before NPR.
Oh, snap. Sorry, Eric and Owen. They double booked NPR and us on the same day.
And we won.
Looks like Eric got stuck at we didn't win. Eric got stuck at work, it sounds
Mother
like.
Nature made us win.
Yeah.
Mother Nature.
Shout out.
Shout out to Mother Nature.
If everyone doesn't know, we're kidding about that. We're not actually competitive with Eric and Owen.
God. No.
Plus, they already beat us on
everything.
Russo, so.
Well, they beat us
and like 5 years of podcasting.
Yeah. It's not a competition at all.
Were we doing an intro?
Yep, we were. Let's get back to that. So, Reptile N Chill.
And if you don't know, it is 3 guys. It is Danny Wells, Dan Haas, and Michael Phelps. Did I get all those names right?
Michael Phelps.
Yeah. Like,
only my mom calls me Michael, and I've been naughty.
You're in good company with the Michael Phelps, though. I mean, that's not a bad
person to be share a name with.
Yeah, and a lot of people, confuse me with that Olympic athlete. But in reality, the only thing that we've got in common is we probably both have about 5,000 calories a day, and that's where it finishes.
You're both male.
So guys, so obviously they are based in the UK. They interview a lot of UK keepers as well as guys over here. I've been on the show. Melissa's been on the show.
Melissa's not been on the show.
You have been on the show.
Thank you.
I was in the contest, but
he was in the original. Yeah,
I'm still butthurt I wasn't invited to the one where John Jesus Christ.
When we invite Joe, Melissa, we automatically expect you to be by the side of him.
Wow, this is bad.
Well, I guess this is proof that she doesn't go with me everywhere, I guess. But
I could have ended that in a much worse way, and I was just ready.
I was really tiptoeing around it. So,
ready.
guys, I was just wondering, we didn't really talk about it, I guess, obviously, when I was on the podcast, but how did you guys first meet?
Right, before we get into it, there's a person on the chat called Ryan Cox who thinks it's acceptable to call us pikeys.
Wait, what's a pikey?
Just
it's a nickname given to somebody that comes from a travelling community. They usually live in caravans.
It's the bad name for gypsies.
Okay, so if we just committed a hate crime, we apologize.
Yes, number 1.
This is why we always tell people don't look at the chat because weird things may be happening, but it's
you're already in there.
We've already gone out before the first question. So how did you guys meet?
Dan Haas, do you want to explain? Because obviously you was the sort of founder of the podcast, so I'll let you explain on how you met us all and how it all got started.
Yes, so originally I started the podcast with another friend when I was part of the West Midlands Herpetological Society. That's really hard to say when you're from England. Herpetological, it's difficult. And basically what we wanted to do was kind of bring the hobby or the community a little bit more forward online. And having listened to your podcast and NPR and all the other cool ones that are out there, I felt that someone needed to do it in the UK. I did try and hint a few times for other people to do it, and no one was interested. So I decided to make an absolute moron out of myself and start it up. Mike was part of that society as well. And I took a back seat for a little while. I had a newborn baby and took a step back. And Mike came with me and we started Reptile N Chill properly. And unfortunately, Danny ended up with us, and we can't get rid of him.
Danny was he was a kind of sponsor for West Midlands Herpetological Society, so we felt like we owed it to him to sort of like get him involved.
I see. Yeah. I got involved on a technicality. That's what he's trying to say.
But if I'm honest with you, and you know, Hoss won't say this, but I don't think that the podcast was taken serious within the society. It was sort of like a bit of a, I don't know, something that was going on in the background, but not a lot of people took it very seriously. And Hoss was like, "No, this is the way forward." You know, a lot of people listen to podcasts when they're driving along. I mean, it passes time so well, especially if you've got a couple of hours to kill. And he was really passionate about it. Hoss sort of like said, look, you know, I'm having a baby. I'm going to take a step away from the society, but I really want to take the podcast with me. So he decided to do that. Hoss had spoke to Danny and myself and said, look, you know, I want to relaunch this and do it properly. I'd like you guys to get involved. And I was really passionate about it. Hoss won't say this, but he puts in an extremely, a huge amount of work behind the scenes. He's not normal. He doesn't sleep.
He said no, and then Hoss is just kind of looking away from the camera.
No, because he won't admit. But he's not a normal person. He's like Terminator. You know, in Terminator, where he just stands there of a night and he doesn't sleep.
I like that.
Just read my cup.
So Hoss's cup says, "I'm not weird. I'm just limited edition."
Yeah, I'm one of these people that just constantly keeps thinking, and I don't really sleep much. I probably get about 4 or 5 hours each night. My brain's constantly going. The problem is it pisses people off because Danny and Mike wake up and there's about 4,000, sometimes 2,000 messages like, "We're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this." And but to be completely honest, it was something that I really wanted to do, and it was trying to find the right people to bounce off. And being part of the society, as good as it was very difficult because you had to. How can I put this? The society had certain morals and a certain standing point, which I had to respect, and there were certain things that I wanted to talk about, which perhaps would have made things difficult for the society. So you bring it away, and I can talk what I want. You know, we can have Chris Newman on, who's I'm going to call him a politician, and he won't like me for it. But you know, and things that people really don't want to talk about, and it can get quite heated. But at the end of the day, this is our hobby. You know, we're all in it together, and we need to sort our fucking shit out. That's the first swear word.
It's not. It's the first swear word by us, but Melissa's sworn like 3 times already. I'm remembering this.
Are we finding them? Can we still find them if they swear?
No.
I think we can. I think we should. Because this is going live to our listeners, you see.
We forgot our parental advisory at the beginning.
I mean,
I meant to say it at the beginning of every episode, but I forgot this one. This is for PG-13 and up.
Well, and I'm wondering, like, what are the kind of like camps of thought? Like, what are the things that obviously it seems like there's hard lines that some people agree with or disagree with, and there's like different groups. Like you said, you didn't want to, you know, kind of get in the way of what the Herp Society stood for and what other people stand for and all that stuff. Like, what are the politics involved?
Tell us all the drama.
No, like, what are people?
I'll be here all night.
What are people like talking about? What are
the hot
points
topics?
of contention, basically?
Oh man, this is boring shit. This is boring. You've probably seen all the stuff in the UK with them banning spider morphs and jaguar morphs at shows and that kind of thing. And currently, the UK has had a lot of legislation change with pet shop owners and commercial breeders, and everyone just seems to be constantly arguing over, you know, that doesn't make sense. No, we can't do that. That's not justifiable. And we need to talk about these things, because if we want to change things, or we want to, you know, or want to implement something, people need to understand it. So if you can put it onto a podcast where someone can just put the headphones in and listen to it, it's much better than sitting there going, "Oh my God, this is absolutely crap. I'm bored," because no one likes reading. No one
Yeah.
likes reading ever.
And also, Hoss, it's, podcasts are so good because you can pick up on the tone of somebody's voice. I don't know whether you guys get it over there, but we get it massively over in the UK. But you get the keyboard warriors that literally think they know something about something and then just type away. They put people down. Young keepers asking questions are made to sound stupid, where we should be embracing them and saying, look, putting our arm around them and teaching them how to do things properly, rather than shooting them down and trying to make yourself look clever and them look ridiculous. So we just wanted to sort of like get people on the show and try and educate as best we can. We're going to get things wrong. We're not right every time, but just try and use our experience to try and get out there to everybody and try and make a little bit of a difference if we can.
And if we can take the mick out of everyone in the process, then that's brilliant.
And a lot of the feedback that we've had from our listeners has been, we've got listeners that are not even interested in reptiles, but they just love listening to the show because it's a bit of a laugh. And we do have serious subjects on the show that we talk about and we try and give as much information about, but we do love having the banter. Danny is the butt of a lot of our jokes because he lives in a different part of the country, so we give him some stick. But everybody seems to like it. The response we get is, I just love, it's an easy podcast to listen to. We can tune in and we can laugh along with you.
Yeah, there's a certain level of kind of like talking shit about each other that you
Whoa, fiver.
That is definitely unmatched as far as, and I bet that helps having like 3 people. Do you guys even agree on the same stuff?
No,
not always. No,
that's the beauty of it. So people are afraid of putting their own opinions forward because other people are going to knock them down or tell them they're wrong. Now, there's 3 of us. We've all got very similar morals when it comes to putting the animals first. But, we don't keep the same way. We do things differently. And we do argue and we do fight about it. But it's always to try and better the situation and to try and pass on and make things more clear to people. Me and Danny, when I first met Danny, I hated him with a passion.
Yeah, you really didn't like it.
We really clashed on the groups. And it wasn't until we kind of sat down there once and spoke about something that was a mutual thing. I was actually, you are a dickhead, but you're all right. He's quite pretty, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's nice to look at.
And he's our dickhead now, isn't
he? Yeah, me and Hoss go back. Realistically, what is it, Hoss? 4 or 5 years now?
Something like that. I can't count. So
it's got to be. It's a crazy amount of time. We set up a couple of groups together. I've always been in sort of joint conversations with people and stuff like that. We've always bounced off each other for a long time, put across opinions and ideas and suggestions to each other for, throughout the years. And we don't always agree. Me and Hoss have had a couple of Barneys, haven't we, mate?
Just a few.
Yeah, but it's one of those. It's one of I've always said.
Sorry, that's a Barney is like an argument.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I use the context.
I've always said if you can't have a fight with your friend and then pick him up off the floor afterwards, is he really a friend?
There is no way you can pick me up.
you know what I mean?
That's a strong man that can pick up a 22-stone Hoss.
Oh yeah, to be honest, first off, if I put him down on the floor in the first place, I ain't getting him back up anyway. I'm just going to take pictures and laugh. I would literally just point and laugh at him. But no, we don't always agree on things. We always get on, if you know what I mean. Especially these days, we see each other as individuals, and that we have individual opinions, and I think we're grown enough to respect the fact that we're entitled to those. We're entitled to different opinions, and because we've grown that far within ourselves and within our keeping methods, we feel we can take on a little bit of that responsibility in bringing the community and the hobby together and teaching people that actually we all deserve an opinion. We all reserve the right to do things our own way.
Well,
Does that make sense?
Definitely. So, if say, for instance, you've kept a certain reptile in a certain way for many, many years, and you think it's doing perfectly fine, there is nothing wrong with starting something new. And people might not like it, but if you try something new and it works, and the animal gets a better husbandry or a better life because of it, then it's worth the arguments, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, hopefully the result of your argument is something better, at the end.
Yeah, definitely. And with Mike, Mike is one of the nicest people in the world. I don't think either me or Danny could actually ever fall out with him. He's like a big ginger teddy bear.
We'd have to push him a long way.
Do you know what? I'm one of them people though that nothing really phases me. But then I get to a boiling point and then they explode. But they haven't pushed me that far yet. But just going back to the point, sort of like I've only known Danny as long as we've been on the podcast together. I hadn't met him before. I was never on social media, or I was on social media for a couple of years before we started, but I never used it to its full potential. I didn't get involved in the politics on social media. But then starting the podcast, I met Danny literally on our first show, and we've only met a couple of times face to face.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and Hoss I met through the West Midlands Herpetological Society. Took an instant liking to him. He's one of them guys that will just ring you up rather than sending you a text message. Had a chat, and we went part of the society. We had sort of like a group meet over at Microclimate, which is like a thermostat company. I got on with him like a house on fire. But since then, and we've started the podcast, it's gone more than sort of like just doing the podcast together. We all speak to each other, a million times a day. If anybody's feeling down, we're there to support each other, and it's become like they're like brothers to me now. So
it's brotherhood.
It's fantastic.
So I guess we'll start with Haas, and then we'll go Danny and Phelps. What do you guys work with as far as reptiles go?
Currently, I've got a pair of northern white-lipped pythons, a pair of Bismarck ring pythons. I've got a undescribed carpet python who's 10 foot something.
The biggest carpet python I've ever seen.
Yeah, it came in as a rescue. It was in the right state. It's doing really well. It looks almost healthy. It just won't eat. But it's at some point it's 10 foot.
It's 10 foot. But it's got a girth on it. It's not overweight, but its girth is like, I don't know.
I bet it is. Oh yeah, yeah. Do that again.
Got some girth on him.
Oh, look at that.
I think as Keith Lemon would say, it's as thick as a Coke can.
It is as thick as a Coke can.
Oh
So
God,
Danny.
the poor Americans have absolutely no idea what is going on right now.
No, I just roll with the references.
We're going to skip this podcast.
So Danny, what do you work with?
That's a big question.
It's probably easier to say what doesn't he work with.
Yeah, I'll start with the geckos. So I'm keeping crested geckos. I've got Phelps grandis, which is a New Caledonian giant gecko. New Caledonian giant gecko, which is a Leachianus. Madagascan giant gecko, which is a day gecko. And I've got Bowers chameleon geckos, morning geckos.
Geckos.
Yeah, that's it on the gecko front. And then rat snakes, I've got a pair of Japanese rat snakes. I've got Mexican black rat snake. I've got Taiwanese beauty snake, and then I've got a few different carpet pythons from jungle and caramels, a couple of undescribed ones, I'm not sure, and then a pair of GTPs. What else do I have? No, I think that's it.
And a chinchilla.
So and a chinchilla, yeah, and a tarantula wandering around my bedroom at the minute.
So it seems like you at least all have a crossroads in Morelia. So Phelps,
Yeah, well, yeah,
give us a little
absolutely.
overview of what you keep, but I know you keep Morelia too.
Yeah, and that's all I keep is carpet pythons. And my collection's quite small at the moment. We're about to go through sort of like a big extension at home, so my collection's reduced quite a lot. I've literally got away with it. I don't know how, but I've been able to. I've managed to talk my wife into let me put them into the dining room, so you can see them behind me. So I've got some diamond bredel coastal crosses that I work with, which are Screamline. But this year I'm quite excited. I've got some absolutely stunning pure albino Darwins that I'm hoping, well, I think she's gravid at the moment, but I'm hoping she won't absorb anything. I fed her a couple of nights ago. I didn't know whether I'd seen them lock up a few times. I didn't know whether she'd produced any follicles. But when I fed her the other night, she responded in a way that I've never seen it before. So I offered a rat to her, and she come out and she just took it really gently, like she usually launches across the viv, throws some coils around it, but she didn't. She literally just, like how you get some corn snakes that will just come out and literally just take it out of your hand nice and gently, and then just eat it. And that's what she did. And I was like, oh, that's a little bit unusual. The next day when I went down, I looked at her. And you could actually see, because she'd swallowed the rat and the rat was inside it, it seemed to be sort of like pushing the follicles or the eggs against it. And you could actually see the shape of the eggs running all the way down her body. So I was like, took some photos. I said, what do you reckon, guys? This is looking quite exciting. And they said, yeah, it looks like she is. So fingers crossed. I'm hoping that she'll give me some nice albinos. Yeah. This year. Right. So that's all I'm working with at the moment. Just carpet pythons, but I really do want to get once the extension's done. I really do want to sort of like look into getting other species. A bit of diversity.
Has the podcast kind of exposed you guys to different people and different animals that you guys want to work with in the future?
Yeah, 100%.
So much.
Yeah,
too much.
Every 5 seconds, we want to keep something different. It's you have a lot of people now that contact us saying, oh, we've got this for sale, I've got that for sale. And there's a lot of it I haven't either heard of or would never even would have thought of keeping. And yeah, I suppose you guys get it as well. It's cool. You get to see a lot more different animals all the time. It's definitely helped me as a keeper as well.
The problem is it's a great excuse because I can turn around to my wife and go, well, it's going to benefit the podcast if I get this animal. And she's like, oh, okay. But yeah, it is. It's.
She's watching this right now.
but I'll tell you what, one thing though, Joe and Melissa, the one thing I keep on saying, and I've been keeping reptiles since I was 15. I'm 42 now, so a long time.
Oh.
But I was never involved in social media, and I probably missed out quite a lot. I've met Danny and Hoss. They've got a wealth of knowledge. They're a little bit younger than me. But I have learned more. I have learned more in the 6 months of doing podcasts than I have in the previous 27 years, because you're speaking to so many people. You can reach people from all over the world. We're talking to you now. You're right across the other side of the planet, and we can learn off each other. So I've learned so much off talking to experienced keepers from all out the world. And I always say, just in case, just explain this for the listeners, but half the time I'm actually saying, I'm asking for myself because I need to know.
Mike, can I just put out there that you've been keeping reptile for 27 years?
I can't. I'm not doing the math at the moment, but yeah,
that's crazy. I was about to say you've been keeping them longer than I've been alive.
I think that was my exact next point. You old bugger.
Yeah.
Can you just show us your arm again, Mike? Put your arm up for us. Your tattoos.
Are you guys all heavily tattooed?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Mike, was yours done with bamboo? Did they have machine gun?
No, it's done with it. It's done with like a biro in prison.
Indian ink.
Yeah,
Indian ink.
Did you used to heat your, 27 years ago, were you heating your reptiles with a candle underneath like a flower pot.
Right, and I know, right, okay. So it's very. I know you're joking now, but listen to this then. So when I started at 15, I was doing some work experience with a guy, and he was into turtles and terrapins, and he said we're going to pop into a shop. I hope you don't mind. There's a shop in Coventry, so not too far away from us. The reptile shop, and when I was in there, I've always been interested in reptiles and all types of animals. And there was a corn snake, Carolina corn snake, for sale for £10. Okay, and that's including a little plastic setup with it. And I thought, you know what, I think I had £8 on me, and the guy lent me £2 to get my first corn snake. My mum and dad was never going to let me have this snake in the house, so I sneaked it into the house and I hid it in a cupboard. I hid that snake in the cupboard for about 7 months before my mum and dad found out. And I used to heat it with a table lamp, okay, that was plugged in, and I put a little, your little plastic thermometers that you can buy. That was in the one corner of the tank of the tub, and I'd go in one day and go, oh, it's a little bit warm, so I'd just move it a little bit further away from the lamp, and there was no sort of like, you couldn't go online then. We didn't have a computer. You couldn't sort of like research. It was just what you was told to do at the time by whoever you could get hold of. So that's how I started keeping. And I used to sneak out on a Saturday on my bike, and I used to ride up to Hawthorne Road where there was a little shop, and I used to buy one pinky and ride back, and then sneak in the house and feed the corn snake the pinky. And that's how I did it for 7 months until I got caught out.
What happened when you got caught out?
I was spanked. I've met his mum. She battered him.
I got given we're not annoyed, we're very disappointed lecture. But yeah, and that's how it started. Fortunately for me, I met a guy in the pub who sort of like took me under his wing, and he was a very, very experienced keeper. He knew a lot of people, so Dave Lester and John Foden were good friends of his. So John Foden, for the American listeners who don't know, he was one of the founder members of the IHS. Incredible guy. So I picked up.
Established isn't our IHS; it's a different IHS.
Yes. Sorry.
The proper IHS.
The original one. No, and I learned from then. So I learned a lot off those people. But yeah, that's how I got started.
Right on. So as far as the Dans or Dannies, whatever you prefer, but both of you guys did, obviously, like, reptile shops played a big part in Phelps growing up, and like it played a part, when I was young, but we are a little bit younger. I mean, were reptile shops still a thing when you guys, is that how you got into it, or? Well,
yeah. So actually, I never wanted to keep reptiles, and it was actually my younger brother. He wanted a snake or a lizard or something. He's about 5-6 years younger than me. And he begged and went on and on and on at mum and dad. I want a snake, I want a boss monitor, I want a corn snake. He wanted a reticulated python 1 week, and then luckily, literally around the corner, a reptile shop just opened. Now, he also did aquatics, like tropical fish and that kind of thing. And my old man keeps tropical fish. He keeps Malawi cichlids at the moment. And so we went up there with my dad just to check out the fish section. And there was all these amazing reptiles. Oh, so amazing. I was absolutely scared shitless at the time of them. My brother's in his element. Oh, I want that one. I want that one. I want that one. And I'm like, nah, not having it. So anyways, we went home and he spoke to my mum about it. And my mum turned around and says, right, okay, so if your brother's willing to keep it with you, you can have one. And I was like, fuck that shit. I ain't getting involved. Not happening. So anyways, then he started kind of like irritating me. Day after day after day, be texting me all day, come on, stop being a dickhead, I only want one. So I went, right, okay, then, let's go and have a look. And we went in there, and he's Mike Conaby, it's called Rattlesnake Canyon. That was the name of the shop. And I went in and explained the situation. He went, right, okay, well, I can deal this. And he just put this absolutely massive, I'm going to say albino because someone moaned in the chat that we say albino.
You gotta stop looking at the chat.
Can't help it.
Just say albino. Albino. How did he say it?
Albino.
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 Can we just have the rest of this podcast just those guys doing British accents? Because that is the best. Those guys doing British accents and Hoss doing American Eleanor accent. That's it. We're done. That's it. Me and Phelps can leave. Come on, Phelps.
So, say just a little bit more American for us, please.
Albino.
He's taking the piss out of me and my ball python.
I like how you use English slang still, though, but with the American accent.
Yeah, so basically, he just threw this massive Burmese python around my neck. He could have killed me. I could have had a heart attack. I didn't. I'm still breathing, I think. And I realised it wasn't what I thought it was. It was a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. But, you know, it wasn't wet. It wasn't slimy. It wasn't going to kill me, or at least I didn't think it was going to kill me. And we actually walked out that store that day with a Brazilian rainbow boa. And I've never looked back since. Then I ended up buying an Irian Jaya carpet python or Papuan carpet python or whatever the hell they're called these days. I ended up buying one of them the following week, and then it snowballed, completely snowballed. I'm not quite sure I regret it or not. I'd have more money. I'd have a lot.
Yeah.
I'd have a nicer car. If I didn't keep reptiles, I'd definitely have a nicer car.
Priority.
I hear you.
You've learned a lot, though, Hoss, over the time, haven't you, mate?
Yes, I've been really fortunate. So, what I didn't know is I actually had two friends in school that kept reptiles, and as most reptile keepers, they're a bit antisocial and they don't talk. And I didn't know they kept reptiles, and the one day I kind of dropped it, and it was like, oh, we keep reptiles as well. Oh, really? Went round, and they had an absolutely amazing collection. They had Papuan pythons, they had pygmy pythons, Puerto Rican boas, Bismarck ring pythons, all different scrubs, different Candoya species, just like everything all the way through pythons, boas, different colubrids. And I was just like, holy shit, like, how do I not know this? And I learned so much off them. There are two people, they run a page called Snakecore, Zach and Luke.
He did it. He did it. He did it. He dropped the names. That's it.
Do you know what? They're really quiet guys. We're desperate to get them on the podcast, aren't we? Because they've got a wealth of knowledge. Some of the animals that they've kept are phenomenal, and we're struggling to get them on because they don't like talking about it.
You gotta groom. We've had that before. You gotta somehow get them in person to do it. Give them beer. Whatever you gotta do.
Look, beer doesn't work. I spent predominantly all of my teenage years getting absolutely shit faced with them. Beer's not going to cut it. We're going to have to go on to we're going to have to start using drugs or something. It's not going to work.
Large sums of money.
Do the most social thing with a pool of the least social individuals.
No, that way, yeah. That's
like this is very, very social.
Yeah. And you do find that, and you know, we do everything we do is sort of like any money we raise is for Mental Health UK. Since we've been doing that, we've had so many keepers contact us and say, do you know what? We suffer with mental health. You know, a lot of people keep themselves to themselves in their bedroom. They've got their reptiles. That's their way to escape how they're feeling. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot of people that struggle to talk in social situations in our hobby. You know, it's the nature of the beast. You know, and that's what probably got them into reptiles. But we're hoping that, you know, in doing what we're doing is going to help at least a few people.
Yeah, it seems that we're in a hobby that a lot of people are drawn to what we're drawn to because they're reclusive and may feel like maybe unloved in some way, and the reptiles are like things that aren't capable of being loved, and then are like don't love also. So they're like, yeah, I want to give love to this thing that necessarily, you know, people don't love. I don't know if that's.
It's like it's like you feel. It's like you feel a connection.
I feel that Joe needs to get something off his chest.
Right?
We're here for you, Joe. Just talk, man.
Well, I'm not. Thank you guys for coming here.
Joe's feeling uncomfortable now. He's gone straight for the beer.
Where's the fucking bottle of King Cake liquor? I think we should take.
I kind of want to take another shot.
I'm gonna cry later.
That'll be him at the end. He'll just be like that. Oh, I've got enough of this.
Wait, what are you drinking, Danny?
What are you drinking?
What am I drinking? Oh, just some
carrot juice.
Morello. I don't actually. Morello cherry. Lemonade.
Tesco's in Norfolk.
Hey.
Right, you went to Tesco, right, which is like your version of Walmart, and you chose to buy that shit.
Well,
what?
You can blame Molly. It's actually quite nice.
I bet it is.
Apparently it's carefully flavored for a vibrant, fruity burst.
I hate when things are lackluster. They're all willy-nilly with the
uncarefully flavored.
Yeah, that's really shitty.
So basically, all it is carbonated water with some flavouring chucked in it. That's literally all it is.
So basically what happened is your partner saw that on the shelf and she went, ooh, straight in my basket.
Yes. Ooh, it's going straight in my basket. Yeah, that's exactly what she did.
So Dan, you're the only one left as far as how you got. Whoa, you're blown into a wine cup over here.
Yeah,
how
there
you
was
got
a
into
bug
it?
in it.
You want to get a bug?
It's in it. I was trying to blow it out, and I blew it in.
We have fruit flies constantly since we have snake shit constantly. So
yeah, I feel that.
You have animals that shit a lot, though, Joe, don't you?
Animals that are prone to shit.
Our whole life, fruit flies.
But Dan, how'd you get interested? How'd you get started? Cheers.
Yeah, shop wise, it was very limited. I'm from quite a small town.
No electricity.
Exactly, no electricity. Shops are usually selling bikes. That's pretty much what you find around here: bikes and go-karts, and no engines, of course. Yeah, we don't have a huge amount of shops. If I want to go to a decent shop, chances are I've got to travel probably a good couple of hours to get there. I kind of fell into my first snake. A friend of mine had another friend who happened to be selling an Everglades rat snake. And I said, "Oh yeah, that'd be amazing. I'd love to keep a snake." So he brought it round. He brought it round for me, and little did I know he was bringing it round and then walking out the door. Literally, I had no choice. I was keeping this 7.5 foot Everglades rat snake, and he was. I don't know if anybody has ever kept Everglades or ever come across many.
For a month before they decided to take their death trip.
They're very, very good at getting out of places, and I tried out a new.
Oh my God. I've got some stories about this.
Sneaky snake.
Yeah. So I got some stories about this. Okay, so my first Everglades rat snake, he ended up. I had him for about, I'd say probably a good 5 years. I got him when I was about 16, so I was quite young. And when he passed, he was a good 9 foot, realistically about 9 foot. He was a big snake. He got out of his enclosure quite a few times. Luckily, he was very easy to find. But one time, he actually got down the side of my sofa and ended up in the bottom. I had to actually physically cut out the bottom of the sofa. The felt in the bottom. Turn it all over, cut it all out, and get him out. And then it was it last year or the year before now? I can't remember. I got hold of this little rescue Everglades. He was only tiny. He was only a couple of foot, and within a few days,
size. They're not
say
usually
again.
9 foot, Danny.
What's that?
They're not usually 9 foot.
No, he was a baby. He was tiny.
Huge.
Yeah, he was huge. He's probably one of the biggest snakes I've kept, especially a colibrid. He was absolutely massive.
It's how I need to explain this because Joe's a bit confused with the length of it. In Norfolk, the rats are 4 foot big. You know what I mean? So
yeah, all the food's so much bigger here. It's like it's on steroids, you see. So
yeah, they're like Alsatians. You know, like Alsatians are they're fucking massive.
But yeah, I had this little baby and I put him in a little temporary enclosure, and within a few days he was out. He was gone. Couldn't find him. My missus got home from work, and I said, "I've got to go. I've now got to go out." One of the snakes has got out. She went, "What? come again?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what to do. I can't find it. I've got to go." And she was like, "Nah, no, you're not leaving me here." I'm like, "No, not happening." I had to in the end. It was missing for what, 2 months, easy, I would say, and we'd never found it. And one day, my dad came over and he opened the back door to the kitchen to go out into the back garden. And as he opened the door and went through it, he felt this plonk on his head. And he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And he looked up, and I looked round, and there's this Everglades rat snake. It's just clonked on his head from on top of the door. He's actually sat in the door cassette for God knows how long. I don't know how long he's been there. But as he's opened it, it's fallen out and hit him on the head. And I was like, "Stay still. Don't move. Don't move." And he went like that. "I'm not moving." "What is it?" "I'm not moving," like that. and I grabbed him. I put him back in his enclosure. What was it? Probably 2 hours later, he's gone again.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
bad keeper, terrible keeper,
horrible, terrible keeper. Luckily, do you know what? I've not had a snake escape on me in 10 years. Easily 10 years. I don't even know how it's literally that species. Just that species. They are Houdinis.
Literally, we lost both of them, right?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about them, but they have some sort of special power.
I've only had one get out, and that was a carpet python, and she pushed the vent out. Obviously, bad. I'd put them on the outside, and I hadn't glued it in properly. I know you should put them on the inside, but I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I actually thought somebody was breaking into my house because I could hear things getting knocked out, and I was like, Sam, and I was tapping. Somebody's in the house, and I literally sneaked around. I was like, followed where these sounds was, and it's one of my females had got out, and literally she was just knocking everything off the windowsill. I thought I had a burglar in the house.
I guess that's a good thing. It was loud.
See, I've never had a snake go missing, but I had a Maclops python. She's a female. She's about 8.5 foot. Let's say I got the worst end of that. So you know when it's the middle of the night, and just to put it out there, I sleep naked. And I needed a wee.
Yours this weekend.
So I needed a wee, as you do in the middle of the night. I drink too much, and I go to walk out the bedroom door to go towards the bathroom, and I can't walk out the door, and I can't figure out why. You know, when you wake up, you're kind of dazed, and there's no lights on, and you're kind of stumbling around a little bit. No. And I've turned the light on. I went to go turn the light on, and as I raised my hand up, I felt this very, very sharp kind of like pain on the under part of my arm. She had popped the vent out. She'd come out the vent, and she was across the door handle. So I've walked into a trap, and just got nailed. Absolutely, she smashed me.
Gets better though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So I'm naked, and I'm standing in the middle of the door. I can't get this animal off me, and she's managed to kind of like throw a coil. So I'm like this. I'm stuck. I can't find her head. Can't get her off. The missus she's not helping. She's like practically crying on the bed. So, right, okay. So at this point, I live with my parents. So I was like, right, okay, I need to go get my dad because I can't get her off me.
Naked.
Yeah. It's not the first time.
Yeah.
So I kind of go into the room and I tap him with my right hand and I say, like, "Dad, you need to wake up. I need your help." And he's like, "No, Dad, you need to help me." And he's like, "Fuck off, son. It's 4 o'clock in the morning." And I'm like, no, Dad. I'm really trying not to wake my mum up because my mum's gonna have fucking kittens if she finds out what's going on. So bearing in mind, on the landing upstairs in my mum and dad's bedroom, it's all cream carpet, and I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding a lot. And eventually, my dad kind of like gets out of bed, realised what's happening. He's like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? I was like, get it off me. But what she was doing is she kept the top jaw in, but she kept repositioning the bottom jaw, and she was quite literally just dragging it through the skin. She caused a lot of damage, and yeah, safe to say that we eventually got her off me. And where our landing is, we call it a landing and a staircase, or a banister. And she managed to get her tail wrapped around some of the timber frames on the banister. So as we thought we got her off, I came away thinking my dad's got the snake, and he hasn't. She's attached to the stairs. And as I walk away, basically to go get a dressing gown to put some clothes on, she gets me smack between the arse cheeks. Safe to say, about 3 months later, I didn't own that snake anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
So I see the enclosures behind Phelps right now, and it seems like a lot of guys in the UK have similar enclosures. What are those enclosures from? Are they like something that's built overseas and shipped over, or it's not like our regular PVC cages that we use in the US?
No, so there's a range of vivs or tanks, whatever you want to call them, over in the UK. From sort of like VivTech is a big company, like your plastic tanks. I built these myself. I'm a carpenter by trade.
Oh,
so
that looks professional.
So I mean, I'm not on the tools anymore, but I'm luckily enough that my neighbour across the road, he owns a wardrobe company, so I can literally just give him a cutting list of exactly what I want. He cuts everything to size and he laminates it all the same. So I've chose sort of like a black laminate to laminate the edges, just to make it look a little bit different. And then I literally just screw them together and then put the glass in. So yeah, that's how I do. I know the other guys do things a little bit different. Hoss and Danny, you build yours as well, don't you?
Yeah, we use OSB 3 board, which is like it's like a chipboard, I suppose, isn't it, Danny? Yeah, but
it's a plywood board, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's like the best way to describe it. It's a chipboard that you can expose water to without it breaking, and they use it a lot in like industrial estates and in building work and that kind of thing. It's dirt cheap. It's not fancy like Mike's Vivs, but it does the job.
And you seal those, don't you? When you build them up exactly the same way, but then you'll put sort of like a sealant in them. You paint them with a sealant.
Yeah, so
your varnish I've been using.
Yeah, so you use a varnish, whereas I use a polyresin. So it's the same stuff that you would line a boat with to keep it watertight. So I could virtually turn it into a fish tank if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but on the podcast, sorry, Joe, on the podcast we did a giveaway, and we had a VivTech.
Sorry, Joe. Carry on talking.
You know what? Do you know what it is? I'm really sorry, Joe. You're not coming through on my earpiece, so I can't hear you talking. It's only because I'm looking at you on the screen and I can see your mouth moving. I'm like, oh shit, he's talking.
Oh, good.
Go on, Mike. You were talking.
Well, sorry. I'm going to have to keep my mouth shut after this. We did a giveaway up to Christmas, and we got from Nicholas Hazard a VivTech. He gave it away. I mean,
HerpTech.
Sorry, HerpTech. Yes,
he's been drinking all day. Forgive him.
So he gave us one of his Vivs free for us to give away to one of our listeners. And a load of other companies donated as well. So we give away sort of like the perfect setup. And I was really, really impressed with the HerpTech Vivs. And if I wasn't a carpenter myself and I wanted to go down that route, that's what I'd do. I'd just buy the plastic Vivs. So easy to clean out. They're so lightweight as well. So moving them around is a lot easier.
Effectively, a tank like a HerpTech should effectively last you for life. If you look after it, and you're not throwing it around, it should technically last you for life. The only thing you'll ever replace is the lights, the heating, and maybe if you're really unlucky, the glass.
Right. What do you guys keep in over in the States?
What's tubs?
So
what tubs?
we keep ambient, so we'll keep we keep some of our snakes in racks, usually to grow out in racks. Some of our pythons are in racks. A lot of our adult core snakes are in standalone tubs. So basically, I just stack them up because it's ambient temperature, so hot spots or anything like that. And that's a way to keep it cost efficient, but also allow, if I want to, you can get a giant tub. Eventually I want to get big tubs with branches and stuff in there, and it will have the same ground space and as well as height as a 3-foot cage or 4-foot cage per se. But it's the cost of a tub, and I don't worry about heating, so that's not a big deal. So I'm allowed to give them more space for extremely cheap.
And just the mobility, moving them around easily.
We got a whole plan on how this is going to work out.
That sounds so.
Yeah, I know. Well, basically, we want to convert tubs into cages, essentially. And there's David Brahms makes these conversion kits over here. He 3D prints it's basically framing to where you would cut, say, a rectangular hole in the front of a tub, and he has framing that goes around it, so you can just put acrylic in there, and you're essentially turning a tub into a cage. So you can do even if you wanted to do a Christmas tree tub, which are 8 feet or 6 feet or something like that, and you can essentially turn that into a cage, and then you're going to be able to clean it as easy as you're going to a
tub
PVC, and plus it's super light. It's under 8 pounds. So I just find that being resourceful will be as helpful in the future as having the resources to buy a 4-foot cage. I think most keepers is going to get to a level with technology as far as the stuff that David Brahms is creating.
3D printing.
We're going to be able to essentially make cages that will make racks obsolete. That's my I don't want to preach non-tubs because I keep most of my shit in tubs. But the thing is and I keep half of my shit in racks. But I want to make a way that we can get cage space while having tub costs. Therefore, we don't have to charge the customer more for producing our snake, but we're also doing more of the right thing by our snakes, in our opinion. And that's just my opinion. Preach the opinion.
It's funny you say that. Danny, you're doing, I think, something really, really cool at the moment with regards to how you keep yours, and you've got sort of a 3-stage setup in one of your fibs, one of your tanks. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's superb.
Yeah, so we have sort of over here, we have exactly the same thing, and they're called really useful tubs, rubs. I can imagine they're exactly the same. And they stack exactly the same, and they are so useful. Rubs in the UK, rubs get a really bad name, but they do have their uses in so many ways, shapes and forms. They really do have their uses. So what I set out to do was take the use of a tub or 2 or 3 and try and do something a little bit different with them, and try and show people that you don't just have to put a snake in one tub. You can do a million things with a tub because they're plastic. You can literally do so many things with these. And so what I did is I took 3 tubs and effectively I glued them all together. So I've got 3, but I can still unclip every lid, if you know what I mean, and take each stack off. So they're all, I can separate them all still, but I can still pick them up as one whole piece, and they're all, glued together. And then all I did was I put a piece of plumbing pipe from tub to tub. So they can go up each tier, they can go wherever they want. If you want to use a heat mat or if you want to use a heat lamp on the top, either way, they can bask for a couple of hours in the morning, and then they can go down to the lower level and sit cold and humid for the rest of the day, whatever they want to do. I've put a different terrain, a different substrate in each level. So they've got 3 completely different substrates to choose from. They've got 3 different humidity levels. Like the top has got quite a deep substrate with a nice layer of moss in it, and then the second one is like soil and stones, like there's some granite in there and stuff to help with shedding and stuff like that. And then the bottom one is just nice soft soil and sand. So there's three very different terrains, three different thermal gradients, and three different humidity gradients. And so far, it works an absolute treat.
I mean, you've said you'll watch them move throughout the day into each section,
absolutely,
to get what they need to out of that section, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely, and they do it at different times. So it's almost like the pair have created their own territories, if that makes sense. Every now and then, you'll see them pass each other. Every now and then, rarely, you'll see them sort of coiled up together. But mostly, one will sit on the top, one will sit on the bottom, and then they'll swap. And they literally go from top to bottom, and they swap. They keep their own territories. They don't fight. You know, you don't see any of that. You don't see fighting for food. Food is so handy. I plug up the pipes. You know, I'll make sure one's in the top. I'll move the other ones down to the bottom. I'll plug up the pipes. I'll take the top tub off, feed her, put it back, take the bottom tub out, feed him, put it back. A couple of hours later, unplug the pipes. Jobs are good. And it's so easy, so simple.
Do you have pictures of this?
What species are you doing this with? First of all, someone wanted to see pictures of it. If you have pictures of it,
I can get pictures easily enough. Yeah, I can get pictures and I'll send them over later. The pair in there are the Japanese rat snakes.
Ooh, so you get to, do you keep them cool? I mean, do you keep them in a separate room? How do you keep them as far as temperature goes?
They're all in the same room at the moment. The room is probably around, it stays at around about 20, 21, maybe 22 degrees during the day. But they all have their separate heat sources. But the Japanese rat snakes are on quite a low heat source. You know, they don't need a lot of heat. They actually seem to do a lot better at a constant sort of 22 to sort of 25 kind of temperature, as opposed to like the carpet snakes. You know, they prefer it at sort of 28, 29. So yeah, they're much easier to keep, especially in a tub. You know, it's a lot more simple.
Yeah, so it allows you the freedom that kind of I have.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if people don't know, for reference, U.S. people, 21 degrees Celsius is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be like what normally people keep their house at. And then he also mentioned 25 Celsius, which is going to be 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So those are all temperatures that we can achieve pretty much no matter where you are in a house, which is why I think, you know, Asian rat snakes are cool.
Yeah, they're amazing snakes. Yeah, they're incredibly fun to keep as well. They're always active. They're probably more active than any of my animals, if I'm honest. Out of all of them, it's probably them and the Taiwanese beauty snakes. They're over the same sort of area. Like I say, always active in the day and the night, really. So easy to keep. They don't need crazy hot temperatures. They don't need too much humidity. It's just nice to provide a nice water bowl where they can soak if they really need to. Just a really great species to keep, to be honest. Great to handle. Great fun to handle as well. They're not going to rip your arm off if you get bitten. Although I do get bitten quite a lot by them. They're quite feisty, to be fair, but they don't do huge amounts of damage. So yeah, good fun, real good fun.
Yeah, but it seems like you guys, in general, as far as keeping goes, reptile keeping, you're trying to give animals options.
Absolutely,
yeah, definitely,
absolutely. That was my whole thing. I thought to myself, how can I take this tub and make it into something that gives them the same options that a 6-foot tank would give them, or well, maybe not a 6-foot tank, because that's a lot of space, but a 4-foot tank. So they've got lots of room to go in and out. They can stretch their whole body up these tanks. They've got all the different thermal gradients, the humidity gradients, and I think it does. I mean, it's not a nice big 6-foot jungle, but it gives them a few options. And it proves that, a tub can be used in a totally different way than just a piece of paper towel and a water bowl. That was my aim.
And that's the thing over in the UK, there's a lot of debates over keeping your animals in tubs or vivs and whatnot. There's a lot of people against keeping them in tubs and racks. But like you say, it's the way that you keep them in there. You can get a decent sized tub that's got everything in that a reptile needs. And at the end of the day, if you're looking after your reptile in the right way, whether you're keeping it in a timber enclosure or a plastic enclosure or a tub, it makes no difference. No. Definitely not to the animal anyway.
I think, and I may be completely wrong here, but especially when I'm going on to a lot of the English groups or the UK groups, there seems to be a big want for enrichment and to provide a platform for the animals to be able to show natural behaviour. And again, I'm not on many of the American groups, so I really couldn't comment on that. But they seem to want to try and heat things and light things a little bit more efficiently to replicate this, what the sun does in the wild. And a lot of people are tending to stay away from care sheets, and they tend to look at field research. Like I messaged you yesterday about Western hognose. Now, I've kept them before. I know how to keep them, textbook. But why just do something textbook? Why just do something because a care sheet says, these animals come from a certain part in the world, and we do have access to that information. So, so I actually, again, I've only done a little bit of research into it, but they say keep it at a hotspot of 30 degrees. Whereas if you look at the field studies, they're finding them basking at like temperatures like 46, 47 degrees. Okay, they're not sitting there all day. But if you can give your animal the opportunity. To get that warm and then get away from it. So the enclosure I've just built, I've got a 25 watt, really, really small bulb. And underneath that, I'm getting a basking spot of about 46 degrees at the moment. The opposite end of the enclosure, and bearing in mind this enclosure is only 2.5 foot, the opposite end of the enclosure is 19 degrees, which is cold. So it's got a complete thermal grate. If it needs all that heat, then it can go directly underneath the bulb. If it wants a 30-degree basking spot, it can find it. There's multiple different.
There is a problem though, isn't there, Hoss? And you've said this as well in the past. It's hard to tell people that because people then go, "Oh, okay, we'll keep our animal at 46 degrees," and you'll end up cooking your animal.
Yeah, the thing is as well is I'm using a tiny. I wish the bulb is literally as big as that cap up there. It's tiny. If you put like a massive normal heat bulb, which are kind of like that kind of size, you are literally.
So all those people driving along now in the cars listening to this podcast, Hoss, are going to know exactly what size you're talking about.
You know what? I'm gonna shake it at Michael's face, the size of my fist. But it's you've got to use common sense, and I think this is why we have these beginner guides and say, look, you need to use a certain sized heat bulb and you need to use a thermostat because it's safe and you've got more control. When you start to look into things and get a little bit more, not advanced, because I don't want to say this, there's a massive thing in the UK about elitism and people thinking they're better. This isn't the case at all. But if you start to get a little bit more technical with the equipment that you're using and micromanaging it, then that 25 watt bulb isn't going to get any hotter. It's it's such a small heat source. It's the way it's being used. And if anyone is going to go out and try it, look into it, do your research first before you do it, because at the end of the day, it's the animal that's going to suffer. So always do your research. But that's why
I have my heat rock on a thermostat.
So in the UK, we don't use heat rocks at all.
I'm just kidding. People really, really fret. That's like the one thing you don't use ever. That's basically the equivalent of, I don't know, just very, very outdated. But what are you gonna say?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the caveat we always have to say with people, like, yes, you can do certain things like this if you have the space.
And like, even if we keep it ambient, and it's like that goes way against the traditional as far as you want your animal to have a thermal gradient, which I believe in most things, but it just works out in colubris for whatever reason, 80 degrees. Even though, say, we have corn snakes here in New Jersey, just 40 miles away, and right now, what is it, 30 degrees out right now, and it barely it barely gets to 80, you know, more than 50 days out of the year, let alone, you know, but you have them in the Florida Keys where they're always hot
Always
too.
80. Yeah.
So it's like,
can handle anything.
For some reason it works. I don't know. I don't have
to be fair, in your defense, I do agree quite a lot with that. You know, with the Boyds and stuff like that, they seem to need a basking spot a lot more than cooler temperate colubrids, especially the Americans and the Asians.
And I keep my pythons on thermal gradient and stuff like that. So I do them differently.
Yeah, I think they do need it a lot more than most colubrids. I say most colubrids, I'm generalizing here, but the colubrids we're talking about, you know, the species of rat snakes I've mentioned, and the corn snakes that you've mentioned, I think do a lot better with an ambient temperature than the Boyds we're talking about would. You know, I think if you were to keep GTPs at just an ambient temperature, an all-day ambient temperature, I don't think they'd do as well as having an optional.
Let me ruin your life.
He keeps his GTP
I keep my GTP with my colubrids because I did.
Really?
Previously, I had them in like a big cube, and I had it was probably like 86-degree hotspot. I tried to go too hot with the GTPs. And then I would keep it like ambient would usually be about room temperature. It was about 72 or so, which I guess is about like 21 degrees Celsius. But then it was just having terrible sheds.
I think we have a weird one though. Ours is terrible.
I think
in that.
Yeah, and it's so weird.
Terrible.
And then I put them in a tub, which is the same size as the cube almost, maybe a little bit smaller with a few perches. Keep them ambient 80 to 82 degrees. And
so much better.
Amazing now. And I don't know why. And I've heard people keep both ways with them too, but I think the whole thing is just not getting too hot with them. I think as long as you're somewhere.
And I think like speaking to sort of like a lot of breeders, and there's a lot of confusion when keeping GTPs about the humidity, and thinking they need it humid all the time, where actually they don't. They need a really high level of humidity for a short period of time. And I think Danny, you'll agree with that, won't you? And then take that humidity away. You know, you don't want it. You don't want it steaming up constantly.
No, not at all.
And you saying that as well, Joe, about the temperatures. You know, I think a lot of people that start keeping GTPs start with a high temperature and then realise that it's probably too high. And I think you did that. You experienced that yourself, didn't you, Danny?
I mean, not quite along those lines, but yes, I 100% agree with the humidity thing. They don't. I mean, most rainforests you go to, you know, you'll have this huge downpour of rain, you know, and it won't stop for a day or two, and then it will stop for 2 weeks and it will dry out, you know, and you won't see any more. It'll be bone dry, and then it will chuck it down again. And that's kind of the way I try and keep. They usually get misted, or I try to raise the humidity as soon as I see one of the animals coming into blue. And when GTPs come into blue, it's incredibly obvious. You cannot miss it. If you're missing it, you're doing something wrong, and you're not paying enough attention, in my opinion. So it's very, very easy to hit that mark, you know, bang on the right spot. You know the timings are perfect. You know, as soon as that slate comes into blue, spray down what, you know, the substrates or the paper, whatever you're using, you know, add a bit of humidity for a few days, let it move out of blue, let it dry up again, just make sure there's loads of fresh water all the time, make sure it's hydrated all the time, because that is so important with GTPs, and then let it dry out. A few days later it will shed perfect every time.
It's important with reptiles altogether. I don't think people change their water often enough. Now, I'm totally over the top, as I am with most in life. I change my water bowls every single day. And, you know, and the reason why I do it, and again, you don't need to do it maybe as often as I do, but as soon as you put that water bowl in, step back from the viv and watch, your animals go straight to the bowl naked. You know, or in my case, they do. If that water's been there and it's been left stagnant, I know especially when I kept scrub pythons, it was always the same. If that water was stagnant or it's a couple of days old, they're not interested. They'll take a shit in it, but they're not going to drink it. So by changing that water all the time, it's a new scent. You know, every time you change the water, you know, it's a different smell. They investigate it and they go, "Ooh, water, have a drink," and that in itself aids with digestion and the hydration. And I found that I don't need to mist my animals as much. And there's a couple of people who are going to take the piss out of me for saying this, but we call it inner hydration. It's more important, you know, coating yourself. You know, if you're thirsty, don't have a bath.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work.
Raising the temperature of the outside. You know, if it's really hot or it's really dry, your skin may get a little bit rashy and it may be dry. But soaking it isn't going to do you any favour. You know, it's going to cause bacterial problems. You know, and that kind of thing. It's not healthy to be wet. So when people say raise the humidity, that doesn't mean to saturate and soak the animal. No. It means raise the air humidity. And that's something that gets really confused within the hobby and the way people talk. And I think a lot of animals suffer because of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people spray. I don't know. I don't spray many animals now. I spray the Amazon tree bill, but I could do anything to that thing and it wouldn't care.
We do talk about that a lot. Sorry, Joe. In the UK, sort of like humidity levels anyway is quite high. So I don't spray at all any of my carpets, but obviously depending on what you like, what your heating source is, and how many vents you've got in your tank will alter that. But as a rule, in a standard Viv over here, there's no need to spray carpets at all.
Also, I mean, here in the northeast of the United States, probably similar over there, we're heating the houses, so we're robbing humidity from our houses. And my house naturally would be about 20 degrees. But since I'm able to have, a separate snake room per se, I keep a humidifier and it stays above 50%. So it eliminates that heavy, I'm less dependent on spraying. I'm less
Your room is huge,
because of that. But that's what I feel like some people keep in their bedrooms. And that's probably a struggle for them to keep humidity.
Oh, no. So when I lived at my parents' house, I had quite literally a whole 2 walls of solid vivariums. Like you couldn't see the wallpaper for Vivs. And I kept a lot of species from Papua New Guinea and Indonesia. So obviously there's a lot of humidity. So when the summer over here is in full swing, it's really warm. Joe's going for a poo now, look.
Anything else he'd be going to do? Like, I don't know why he felt the need to tell me what happened.
Yeah, so obviously growing up in my bedroom as a kid, there was just so much humidity. You're just lying there on top of the bed sheet going like, oh my God, kill me now, it's too warm. And obviously the snakes come first, the room needs to be warm, and unfortunately the humidity come with it. Not many golf stopped over in that room, unfortunately.
No interest in ever keeping snakes in the bedroom again. It's just...
No, it's a pain in the ass. It really is.
The albinos that I had to put them in just because I quarantined them. But at that time we only had room in the bedroom to put them in. But the male was absolutely obsessed with my wife. Every time she walked in, he would just come out and just follow around the bedroom. It was really freaky. I had to move him straight out.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy you, Joe?
Sorry, Hoss, you're breaking up quite a bit, mate.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Joe, your internet connection, Haas.
Joe, did you enjoy it?
He's going for beer.
Okay, so some questions and comments from the chat. Graham Battison said first, said he's inner hydrating with a beer right now.
Nice.
He's a good friend of ours, Graham.
You guys, we're going to lose him to you guys soon.
Yeah,
I just stay live on air. Graham, you lied to me. Last night you gave me some advice to get in touch with a certain individual because he's seen Western hognoses in the flesh. He hadn't. He's never seen one. He's never seen one. He's never kept one.
My
He lied to me.
I'm from America, dude. You can't have someone from the UK to see fucking Hogno. What are you doing?
He apparently knows loads of people, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know someone. He's an American."
Trying to be American lately. I heard he's trying to get over here, but I don't know.
Right, no, he's coming over to take your jobs. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, he sold up. He sold his house and everything. He's on his way.
He's gone.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Good riddance.
Also, Ryan asked if you have on-off thermostats or are they progressive?
Progressive. We call them dimming thermostats.
We do too.
I use predominantly dimming thermostats. I find them more cost effective. Your bulb, obviously, if it's constantly going on, off, you're going to wear that filament out quicker. Whether it's dimming, you're obviously using less electricity to maintain that temperature rather than having to heat the bulb back up again. And also, as well, I don't like discos in my room. You always flash on, off.
It was quite interesting, Hoss, when we went to Microclimate, when the company that manufacture our the thermostats that we have, they said that they would use the dimming because the ones that we've got have got on-off, pulse, or dimming, and he said I would use the dimming on absolutely everything. And we just go like even if you're using heat pads, because a lot of people was in a misconception that you use a pulse for a heat pad, and he was like, no, use dimming on everything. So we just took his advice and we just set everything on dimming now.
I think light bulbs are probably a very foreign thing to a lot of US keepers. So you guys don't use like heat tape or something that we would use here?
Ceramics. I use ceramics. I do, and ceramics and LED lights. Not for heating, obviously, but just for lighting, and ceramics for heating.
Yeah, so for racks and tubs, people use heat pads or cables, that kind of thing. No one's really brought the heat panels over here. There's one company which make them, and they're not really that good, to be honest. So if there's anyone listening who actually goes and wants to start up a business, please do, because we need them.
Well, panels
and a decent internet connection, by the sound of it.
Yeah,
Hoss.
that's what you need, Hoss. That's what you need.
You're jumping all over the place at the moment, mate.
It's the drugs.
I wouldn't mind so much if you were taking on the full Mardi Gras experience and had your t-shirt off. That'd be fine. But
well, that's for Joe's. Multiple people. That's what they have to do to get Joe's shirt off. But I say time and time again,
they were all dudes, by the way. Don't get impressed, people.
I think you should take it off.
Dude,
Come on.
It's going off my forehead bright, let alone
like
if
that's go.
Oh dear.
Also, only tourists do that, guys. Don't aspire to be tourists.
No, do whatever you want. Have fun, guys. Drink.
Well, Mardi Spring break. Woo!
I love that that's a reference that's across all countries.
Although I feel like he said it in like a white American girl way.
He did, and I love it. Say it in that way too. Like it's across the world. That spring break reference.
That American girls are like that, I guess.
Do European girls show their tits? I don't know.
No, not one.
Depends which country you go to.
My house.
It's finally been cut out. Brilliant.
Oh dear, bless him.
So yeah, depending on which country you go to in Europe, depends on how much clothes they wear or how little they wear.
Yeah, if you've ever been to somewhere like Sweden or Amsterdam, yeah, Mardi Gras would be tame.
Yeah,
anything like that would be tame.
Need a Mardi Gras to take the clothes off, do they?
No.
So you guys are going to be having a party. I guess we got to talk about that.
Oh, wait, no, wait, before that. Sorry, I thought this was interesting. Graham said one more thing. And he said he finds that living in a harder water area, you can get more urate buildup and lime scale. And he said he switched to bottled water recently and seen a better result. So do you guys tap water or bottled water?
Well, where me and Hoss live, our water comes from probably one of the world's best water sources in the world. It comes from the Welsh mountains. So we've got fantastic water quality where we live. In Norfolk, nothing is safe to drink for animals or humans, and I should imagine if you want to leave, you will go to the shops and buy your water.
Actually, yeah, bite me. Surprisingly, our water's really good. You do get the odd sort of watermarks on the glass and stuff.
Occasionally,
but it's nothing terrible.
Not a big deal.
Body floating in it, and
yeah,
dead animal.
So Danny, you know when you turn your tap on, how long does it take the brown sludge to stop?
No, we don't. No, all jokes aside, we don't get anything like that. To be fair, it's really clean here, so I don't bother.
We've heard you shout down, Molly. I'm coming down in 5 minutes. Can you turn the tap on? I want a drink of water.
No.
God, the Norfolk people are going to string me and Hoss up. I tell you,
they are. They genuinely are.
They're not though, because they can't get out of Norfolk to do anything.
No, they're all locked down. Man. You're gonna have to come into Norfolk first. You know, when you guys come here, they're going to be waiting at the border for you with pitchforks.
It's for like us because we don't know. For us, it's like if you're in a different state, you could be like 7 hours away. How far are you guys away?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, I think from border to border, if you want to do it like that, it's probably around about 2 hours. But for me to get to Hoss's house is I would say with traffic probably a good 2.5 hours.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No, it's not terrible. No,
over in the UK, we think that it's a long distance, and we're going, it's 3 hours. But over there in the States, you go like,
well, it's not.
It's a 20-hour drive for us.
That's it. But when you all work, we all work. We all work sort of quite long hours, so we don't really get to see a lot of each other. We've all got our families at weekends and stuff like that as well. So, and also I know what the States is like. You can drive for 3 hours and really not notice it, if I'm honest, because you guys have really nice roads, really big open roads.
Decent podcast to listen to.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you guys have got Reptile N Chill to listen to. I'm jealous. But if you drive for 3 hours in the UK, chances are you've hit 7,000 potholes. You've got anxiety because you think your wheel's about to fall off because of that drainage hole you've just hit on the side of the fucking B road.
Yeah, road rage in there as well.
Oh, dude, Danny, the road rage.
You're completely lying, mate. If you've driven for 3 hours, you probably got to the end of Norfolk, mate, because of the fucking traffic.
Tractors are a nightmare around here. Tractors and lorries. Them tractors, boy, they're everywhere, aren't they? Bloody old things. Get right in your fucking tits, boy.
Those tractors and farmers are fucking everywhere. I've cut my head. I'm bleeding.
You bumped your head.
I'm bleeding.
See, I noticed it earlier. He'd shaved his head and he hasn't shaved his head properly, so he's obviously he's knocked the scab off his head laughing.
Oh, you absolute grimmer.
Has anyone got a pasta?
Kick him off. Kick him off the podcast.
You guys have the same exact look, just a couple years off.
Fuck off.
Whoa.
20 years off. 20
hang
years
on.
Right. You all have the same exact look. If Danny just lost his hair.
It's Phelps and Haas have the same look.
Look, we liked you too.
We did.
What are you evil for? They're taking the piss out of you.
Out of everybody, I am the most offended. I am the most offended by that. I'm not going to lie. Now, technically, since we are still technically hosts, right? Is that a fiver? Because he's offended me. I know we might not be the hosts of this podcast, but we are still technically hosts. Fiver.
Have you brought your gavel? Have you got your gavel with you?
Yeah, that'll do. Fiver. Order in the court, fiver.
Obviously, some of your listeners might not know, but what we do, we fine our guests. So if they swear, we fine them. If they drop off the call, we fine them. And if
you got it, Haas.
That is true. That is true. Haas, that's a fiver. You dropped off.
Don't drop off.
And if you upset us, you get fined. And all the money that we make goes to Mental Health UK. So
you get to choose if your feelings are hurt, and if they're hurt, you charge us $5.
Yeah, my feelings are hurt. Look, see this face?
I did not support him in that original statement.
It's a really good job you didn't come on the podcast, Melissa, because Joe swore that much and offended us that much. We've had to set up a payment plan for him.
We don't know how to not
like
curse.
a second.
We don't know. We can't not curse. It's so bad. We curse so often.
Again, just see Melissa just going, Joe, you seem to be selling a lot of reptiles lately since you've been on that podcast.
What's happened?
Yeah. Why has Hoss got a new car?
Oh, God, don't say that. You'll get judged.
On the chat, say pikey's a curse word.
It's not a curse word. It's just offensive.
It is offensive. It's basically like... It's kind of, you know,
it's like calling a homeless person a tramp.
Yeah, so you know what a gypsy is, right? You guys. Yeah. Okay, well, gypsies are
careful.
Gypsies are very traditional families that don't like living by the rule of the man.
Exactly.
So they like to travel around in actually really, really nice wagons and carts, and they have lovely horses and ponies and stuff like that, and you know, all that good stuff, and they do a lot of traditional stuff. Caravans. No, gypsies. You're talking proper gypsies. Yeah. Proper gypsies. Listen. Yeah, proper gypsies are like clean. They make a living. They make things, you know, and earn money, and you know, they're actually half decent members of society. Pikeys, on the other hand, are the scummy ones that you see that have set up camp in crappy, horrible white caravans on the roundabout in the middle of your town, and are throwing bags of rubbish and shit all over the roads, and they're getting in the way, and all the people driving past are swearing at them, and the police can't move them because they're, you know, when you take on one pikey, you take on 1,600 of them.
And you've just done that straight up.
Fucking bring it, dude. I'm from Norfolk.
Can I just say,
bring it.
Danny Wells's opinions are not affiliated with From the Ground Up podcast or Reptile N Chill.
It is affiliated with both. Yeah, pikeys are no good. Pikeys are not good.
Lost our pikey listening case.
Single-handedly, I'm soz. I can't imagine any of them have got the internet. Oh God! Oh.
Annie, you're going back on the naughty step.
Have you seen Snatch, you guys?
No, but someone brought it up earlier in the chat. Actually, Brandon Wheeler.
If you watch Snatch, Brad Pitt and his friends are pikeys, proper pikeys.
I mean, do they all look like Brad Pitt? It sounds like the joke's on you if they do. I mean,
they look like.
No, unfortunately, they really don't.
Oh yeah.
Hi to Brandon Wheeler anyway. He's a good guy.
So it's like, it's just
Brandon
forms of those things.
Of pikeys.
Yeah, we have our own.
We have our own pikeys.
Yeah. Over here, pikey is. I'm explaining the worst. No, I'm explaining the worst. You know why people see it as a swear word.
Yeah.
And you should be fine for that, right?
What?
I mean, we all said pikey.
We all said pikey a lot.
Yeah. Find Reptile and Chill. And Horse can pay it.
But if you do, I can just say that you are taking it out of Mental Health UK. So, you guys.
I'm sure this is Reptile podcast.
Yeah.
Reptile and other stuff.
So Reptile, well, let's talk about Reptile podcast.
No, let's talk about Carpet Fest.
Oh yeah, that's what we were trying to talk about.
And then
we suck at talking about what we're actually trying to talk about.
But we're getting there. So y'all's Carpet Fest seems to, in its first year, already like out.
All right. They didn't pull it off yet. All right, stop. This could all be fake.
The advertising is already
fake news.
The advertising is already above a lot of the other Carpet Fests.
Well, no, they have a bouncy house.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
A bouncy house.
And these assholes they have the nerve to serve barbecue.
Yeah, I thought
barbecue at your Carpet Fest, sir.
Yeah,
barbecue, guys.
We were actually going to have a bald eagle as part of a big bird display.
You're going to hold it on the 4th of July
Just
too, or what?
Yeah, we thought Eric wouldn't be able to deal with it, so we've cancelled that. But we have got a bird display happening. Yes, it's the 3rd of August this year. Mike's going to tell you the address at the end because I can't remember it.
Do you want to go and give your internet like a slap?
It's not my internet, it's parents. Shit, I can't do anything with it. I've tried.
Do you want to go and give your parents a slap?
I'm on a podcast.
Oh God! Fucking hell. I told you you're going to lose all your fans tonight. That's it. That is it. Oh, gone. From the ground up is done for. That's it. That's it. This is the final podcast, guys. Let's push that. It's really pushed this one. That's it. From the ground up is done.
It's now called From the Ground Down.
It's only going one way. It's going down.
Oh my God.
So let me just bring a little bit of normality back to the show and then apologise for my co-host. Okay, so Saturday the 3rd of August, we are hosting the first UK's Carpet Fest. Danny, do not start. We have beer, music, barbecues, bouncing castle.
What is English barbecue? Like
burgers and sausages. So yeah, hot dogs.
No, we're going to serve tri-tips and all sorts. It's going to be amazing.
No, we're not.
Grill.
It's at my local rugby club, and I know the guy that's doing the barbecue, and he only does 110% beef sausages.
Beef sausages. Oh God.
Yeah, that's our barbecue. That's our barbecues. We've got a reptile and bird display, charity raffle. And it is at the Vizians Rugby Club, Little Hardwick Road, WS9 OSQ, and the doors open at 1, and the drinks finish early hours in the morning when you're carried out, basically.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry, this is stupid, but what is WS9 OSQ? Is that the address?
That's postal code. It's like your zip code.
Okay. Are rugby clubs like I imagine them? Do you just like throw beer around and do chants, or what do you do in rugby?
Yeah. We do that. We do the haka. Yeah, we're gonna do all that cool stuff. It's gonna be amazing. Honestly, you guys haven't seen nothing. Basically, in a nutshell, we've stolen Carpet Fest, right? And we're gonna show you guys how to do it. It's gonna be absolutely amazing. It's just gonna be a club full of like passed out bodies as far as you can see.
Can I
be a girl?
The first person that's going to be passed out is the young man from Morelia Python Radio.
It'll probably be me. It'll be me. It will be me.
So
Yes,
you
so
guys,
we're having a sponsored Hobbit toss.
Who's it sponsored by?
bald eagle on them and see how far you'll fly with them, or what?
Yeah. We should ask that question actually, guys, while we're here. Does From the Ground Up, do you guys want to sponsor the Hobbit toss?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I think you should.
about
I think they should. What do you think, Hoss?
Who's throwing the hobbits? I mean, you're one of them, Danny. So
You are.
Phelps, you could 100% pick up Eric and throw him.
But it's like, if I can't throw Eric, right, I'm cancelling Carpet Fest now. I'm not allowed to throw him.
if it's a throwing competition and I'm up against Hoss, my money's on Hoss. He's a big old guy.
Yeah, he's got like a super arm, haven't you, Hoss? Super strong.
You guys both look like guys who I've seen who throw kegs and kilts.
yeah.
I think you're exactly that guy.
Yeah, that's the Highland.
Oh, that's
Games.
it. Oh,
Yeah,
that's it. That's the entirety of Scotland defended. Oh dear. So offended the Pikeys was bad. You've just offended Scotland. Fuck. Oh, that's it. We're done for.
You touched on like Hoss's special arm. I don't know if you know that he's like,
I did not call it a special arm. I called it a strong arm.
That's exactly where my brain went. All of our brains went that
Take
way.
my strong hand.
half T-Rex, so his one arm's little and his other arm's massive.
I think I need to explain myself.
I think I need to leave.
Basically, Danny Wells is a bully. I'm missing a muscle in my arm, which makes my arm look weird. I'm really sensitive about it, really conscious about it. But Frank,
That's why you
over.
reptiles, because you feel unloved about your arm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh god.
Too small.
Has anyone got any tissues?
And as you can see, we fully support Hoss in his, feelings about.
I'm going to give 10 to mental health
Yeah.
just for Haas's arm, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think his internet gave out, so he can't even respond.
I think we should donate some money just so we can get a decent internet connection.
You're going to want to go visit www.patreon.com/Haas in order to get him.
Go fund me.
He's frozen, bless him as well now.
Bless his heart.
Log back in.
Hoss, he can't even fight back.
Oh,
There he is.
Wait.
That's another $5 he dropped off the line.
Yeah.
Useless.
Doing it again.
So, can I request a Facebook live stream of all three of you in the bounce house together?
All right,
Yes.
now
I love that.
Yes, definitely. What the?
I just didn't have to touch each other. I just want them.
You're gonna want to touch each other.
jumping.
We want the three of you live in the bouncy house.
Hoss.
We're going to have to get a bigger.
Yes.
They call it a jumping house, but a bouncing house. But we need to get a bigger one because they want to see us, all three of us, in there. So we're going to have to go extra large.
Look, I know we've got a rugby field attached to the club. It's not that fucking big. Not being funny, I'm 22 stone. If I fall on anyone, they're going to die.
I'll be surprised if the bouncy castle is still standing after you get on it.
And that's exactly why it needs to be live.
I can't say that.
Right, Danny Wells, he's gone.
You might take it down, but it'll come back up. They always come back up.
Oh my gosh. I've actually just blown a blood vessel.
Right, it's official. Danny Wells is the second person to cry on this podcast.
Oh god.
That's very true. It's only been me up until now.
You cried twice. You could think you cried like a week.
I did cry recently. Who made me cry?
I don't know, man.
I'd say a $5. That's a $5. Making someone cry is a $5. Definitely.
Damn, I don't remember who it was, but I really did. Okay, so since you have a bounce house, are you trying to make it like a real family friendly?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So
Like
the idea, the idea is
friendly.
the idea is that reptile keepers come, but also people from the local area that maybe don't keep reptiles or are just interested in them, or don't even care about them. As long as they're putting money in the mental health bucket, I ain't bothered. Literally, everyone's invited.
But we want to educate the kids as well, don't we? So we want to make sure that the kids are there, even if the parents aren't interested. You know, this could be where in 20 years' time, one of them kids are talking on their own podcast, going, "Do you know what? I went to a thing called Carpet Fest. It's when I saw my first reptile, spoke to some keepers, and from then it ballooned. So, you know, you never know who's going to be, you know, out of those kids who are going to actually get into reptiles and be the future of the hobby.
So is alcohol served? Because then
absolutely.
Do you think we'd turn up if there wasn't no alcohol?
Come on, look, guys.
So in the UK, we can drink and take our children. Like we can take our kids to bars.
Wait a second. Yeah, see, that is not.
We can do that in New Orleans.
Can drink outside. You can have open container. We can't have that. Bars are usually 21
New Orleans is special, and we get to do that.
She lived in an uncivilized part of the country. It's like the armpit of our country.
No, it's the best experience of our country, and it's what all states wish.
Ruleless.
It's the laws, not laws, that all states wish they didn't.
It's influence from the French.
I feel that Melissa's lived a better life than you now, Joe.
That's a true opinion.
I went to bars with my parents. I've been able to go into bars.
Clearly she was brought up very well.
Your parents know you the best, so they should be able to decide on what exposure
Louisiana,
you are.
You can drink at any age as long as you're with your parents.
No, I think it's like 16.
No, it's
you have
like
to be
12,
at least like
dude.
16.
You can drink as long as you're with
if you're going for a meal, I think I might be wrong. I think if you're 13 and you're going for a meal, it's at your parents' discretion. In the UK. But if I'm honest with you, I mean, in the US, you have to sort of like produce ID. Even sort of like past 21, they'll ask you for ID. I was drinking in a pub. I got really friendly with the guy that owned the pub. And I had
really friendly. Really.
I'd been drinking there for years and got to know him quite well. And then I asked him to have my 18th birthday party there. So, and he was like, "You've been drinking here for 3 years. You mean you're not 18?" And I was like, "No, I started drinking here when I was 15." But yeah, I mean, he said more and more so now in the UK, they're asking for ID, but they never used to. It was just a look at you and. You know, you had that friend that was sort of like had a full chest, a full hairy chest and a beard at 14, and you'd ask him to go in the local off license and buy the beard for everybody in the area.
when I met your mum at your wife's birthday party, she actually told me that you came out the womb completely bald and with a big ginger beard.
And with a pint of beer in his hand.
Cider, come on, get it right.
Cider, yeah.
And
stronger.
This podcast turned me into a massive drinker, and you know,
liar.
The first podcast he did, he was like, "Daddy, I'm going to behave tonight. I'm only going to have 13 cans." What?
It's my last one now. Look.
Wow.
Fuck's sake. That is madness. And his face is even barely red.
I know, you're the most passable drinker. Like, I'd never guess you'd had so many already.
Yeah.
I'd be on the floor. That'd be it. I'd be like that.
Well, my excuse
literally, you wouldn't get anything else out of me.
Because they're only 440 mil. So I've only had 12 440 mil cans. They're not quite pints.
Still, Joe's on like 4, and that's a lot.
Joe looks like he's about to pass out.
You're only
Couple shots.
that's a
Too.
330 ml can. I think that Joe's drinking.
This is 12 ounces. I don't know. I speak American. It's about all
That's
like
330.
330. So this is 440, and this is my 12.
But it's just, did you say it's just cider?
Yeah.
That's easier to drink.
Yeah, it's only 5%.
Oh, well, that's what our beer
Volume.
is. That's what our beer is, yeah.
Yeah.
We're still pussies. Don't.
Oh, we are.
Mine is 1 liter, so it's
fruit.
much bigger than yours. This is a fruity cider.
Would you like some of this?
No, I do not want some of that.
It is because it's black, because your internet's terrible.
It's Corona Hoss is drinking.
Mine is 2.5%. Comminuted lemon from concentrate. That's yeah.
Oh, God, it's going terribly wrong.
Got it.
I don't know what that. It sounds like I'm drunk.
Danny is talking absolute bullshit.
Mike's just swore, so he's definitely pissed.
Yeah, I don't swear, do I?
No, he's pissed.
Okay, so snakes. So there will be snakes at your carpet fest.
Possibly.
Oh, Hoss, you there?
Hoss, sort your internet out.
Ah, he's gone, Hoss.
Touch a snake at a carpet fest. So there'll be snakes at your carpet fest.
Well, I lived literally opposite the rugby club, and my collection's here, so that'll be available for everybody to see.
I think what we were trying to do was get someone to bring one of their displays down. You know, like a licensed venue displayer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we've got that booked in yet, but that's the idea.
Yeah, because the laws have just recently changed over in the UK about doing displays, and you have to be fully licensed, and you got to be inspected. So things are a little bit up in the air over in the UK at the moment.
So that's inspected when you have them on display. So say you wanted to have them at Carpet Fest, you would have to have someone come and check them.
No. So somebody would inspect you as a business at some moment in time and say, right, then how are you keeping your animals? What are you doing? What experience have you got? There'll be a whole host of sort of like questions that they'd be asking.
I will send you out the document that you need to read. It is quite literally the biggest headache our hobby has ever had, or the business. It makes things very difficult. So if you've got a Burmese method, the enclosure needs to be 2/3 of the length of the snake and 1/3 deep and 1/3 high. So if you've got a big animal, you're quite literally keeping it in a room.
12-foot cage.
But also
you
can get a 6-foot snake, like a slender bodied colubrid, against a thicker set Boyd, and you're meant to be keeping them in the same vivarium.
Well, yeah. So if you've got a 6-foot animal, you should be keeping that by their legislation in a 4-foot by 2-foot by 2-foot. So say if you've got for example, a 6-foot corn snake, but if you've got a 6-foot blood python, you can keep those in the same enclosure, which makes no sense at all.
That sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. There was no thought gone into it. I think people got involved in coming up with the size. I think the best intentions were there without getting advice from experienced people, and I think that's where it went pear-shaped. And I think
it was non-reptile keepers.
Yeah,
I think it was non-reptile keepers that actually came up with the legislation.
Yeah,
I think what it was is the hobby itself, along with Chris Newman and the people that fought for it, said that the hobby needs policing in some way, shape, or form. We should be setting a standard on minimum enclosure sizes for certain species. Blah blah blah. Someone took it and went, let's just do it our way, and slap a minimum enclosure size for every bloody snake
And
out
does that
there.
apply to all the keepers and
And
breeders,
just
or just breeders?
Yeah.
No. So if
No,
you're
rescues and shops.
Commercial.
Rescues aren't included. Rescues
rescues.
technically, a rescue centre for reptiles doesn't legally exist in the UK. There's no formality, or you can't register them. But if you are a commercial breeder, or you own a pet shop, so you've got a pet shop license, that now comes under the new animal activities license. It's all a bit messy, but I think it's something we can work on. I think people need to.
Yeah, the basis is there.
I think if people have got they've got problems with this, to get in touch with their local authorities and say, "What, this isn't working," and they need to report that, and then together the councils can kind of like go, right, okay, this isn't working, we need to change something. But until people start talking, if people keep quiet, then it's going to be fucked forever. We need to kind of, let's say none of us have reptile shops, so it doesn't really affect us.
We do have Chris Newman who fights all of our battles on this in Parliament and what have you. He's pretty much on our side. He agrees that it's absolutely ridiculous, and what they've done is they've taken a few people's suggestions and just gone absolutely wild with it. And it's almost like they've had a party, got pissed, and come up with these bloody legislations and rules, written them all down, and then thrown them into circulation. And it's absolutely crazy.
And there's lots of things, isn't there, Danny, why people are up in arms, because some of the shops that are keeping animals are only keeping them for a short period of time, because they're obviously selling them on. But then it doesn't affect anybody at home who's going to be keeping them long term. So you
if anything, it would be the keeper. It's not the temporary situation that you would.
They've got it all. It's almost like they've got it all backwards. And also, I know some people who are keeping 15, 16 foot pythons in absolutely amazing enclosures, but now this legislation is telling them that they're too small. And it's like, come on, guys. Even the people that are doing it the right way and, have these fantastic setups and enclosures that are more than big enough. You're even telling us that even those guys are doing it wrong now. And you've got people keeping...
It seems like they don't take into account the fact that how wide it is, as well as length. So what if you had something 6 foot wide, but also 6 foot, 6 foot in length, 6 foot in width, and
but also you can't add it on. But also, they're just looking at the size of the enclosure. There's so much more to look into when you're keeping reptiles. What are you heating? How are you heating it? Are you heating it? Are you giving it enough? Water, is it getting enough water? Are you giving it any substrate or anything like that? Has it got a hide? So I am legally keeping this snake because I've got it in a 9 foot viv. It's got no water, no substrate or anything like that. It's got no heating source, and that's fine. You know what I mean? It's just
part of the legislation there is certain requirements. So you've got to have a source of water. You've got to have sort of heating, you've got to have 2 hides. The problem is when it comes to the enclosure sizes, it goes on the floor space. So if you've got a 6x4 viv, but you've got a 3x2 shelf inside there, you've increased that floor space, but that doesn't count. No. That doesn't count. If you've got branches, if you've got rocks, that increases the floor space in the vivarium, but that doesn't count. It's what the structure.
Which is silly because one of the arguments the hobbyists are having is, okay, Hoss, you could have a, let's say, for instance, you could have a 6 foot corn snake in an 8 foot enclosure, right? But you could have it on, just newspaper, 1 hide and 1 water bowl. So there's no enrichment, there's no, anything else, but I could have it in a 4 foot enclosure, which is half the size, but I could have branches and I could have vines and I could have different level hides and I could have deep substrates where it could burrow and I can have all this good stuff, where it can
platform as
really be enriched. Yeah, platforms
and platform on which increases the size of your
and big wide perches and stuff, where I can add so much enrichment and so many different options and thermal gradients, light gradients, all that good stuff. I can add into a 4-foot enclosure so much more than somebody might be adding into an 8-foot enclosure, you know. So it's almost like they've just gone, oh, every animal should be in an enclosure that's 2/3 its size or whatever, and that's it. And there's nothing else to it. It's like, whoa, guys, you've literally put no thought into this. You know, no thought whatsoever. Yes, we agree that the hobby needs policing or whatever, you know, in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely needs guiding, in the right direction. But what you've done is totally wrong. And I will go on record saying that what they've done is so wrong. Yes, we can probably work on it, but it's going to take a hell of a lot of work and so much legwork to get this to where it needs to be. Because right now it's like at ground level, you know. It needs to be right up here, right here.
You mentioned you have like a representative that's kind of representing the reptile hobby per se through one person, but is there any talks as far as like having your own organization?
Yeah,
like
do y'all have like a USR?
Well, like a hobbyist driven organization, or like an official?
Yeah, like obviously you have IHS, but in a way I feel like the more I talk to people, the more it seems like there's differing opinions for that, because it seems like that's very hard-headed in one direction, and versus, so it's like need some type of voice for everyone.
What we need is a really, really big UFC cage, and everyone gets in it, fights, and gets it out the way and done with, and then at that
Royal
point,
Rumble.
We need something, but people are more interested in just having it out, arguing, and just arguing without conclusion. And it's quite funny, actually, because Danny's just gone on a massive rant about it. He actually promised that he wouldn't talk about politics ever again.
This is why I don't talk about politics. This is why.
But the answer to your question, Joe, is no, we don't.
No, not really. We have like a few societies that, you know, are all doing well in their own little way, shape or form. We have the individuals. We obviously have the IHS and the BHS, whatever. You know, they're all doing their own things. And they all do great, you know, they're all doing brilliantly, but actually, really, they don't have the power that they need to make a real change and to change these legislations and stuff like that, you know, to go up in Parliament or whatever and fight for our cause. Because
I think it's people power as well. So you've got to think as well. England's quite a small country. Whereas if you look at the size of the United States, you've got a heck of a lot more reptile keepers than we have. So there are more people that are probably willing to help and join up. Maybe I don't know. That's maybe from my perspective. You've completely frozen on the screen. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
That's cool.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's frustrating because I think something actually Joe did a YouTube video about doing good by the animals and putting the animals forward and always putting their interests first. And I think that's what people need to concentrate on. People need to stop arguing. They need to stop bunny boiling and just, you know, having a go at people all the time. Spend some more time with your animals and do better by them. I think that's what people need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. I think we've lost Joe and Melissa, haven't we?
If the hosts fall off, that's a £25 fine.
Absolutely. Right then, everybody, welcome to Reptile N Chill. This is the #1 UK's podcast.
Did you guys hear me at all?
No, not at all.
We lost you guys big time.
But look,
we lost you too.
We'd just like to welcome you to Reptile N Chill podcast.
I'm more worried. I'm more worried that if they lost us, that actually they were talking and doing their own thing, and the listeners can't hear us at all.
Well, we don't know who the listeners could hear. I was talking. I was like, I don't know if they can hear us or not. If they can hear us or them.
You just froze and we couldn't, so we just literally started talking between ourselves.
You pair look like you've been off to do your own little thing in a different room for 5 minutes. Joe's just come in like all tired. Yeah. Is that what they call it?
It is the Mardi Gras.
Okay, so some of our listeners say they heard you guys. They could continue to hear y'all.
Oh, okay.
That's good. That's good. So this is still the Reptile and Chill podcast.
Yeah. So Joe, Melissa, how did you first get into keeping reptiles?
Oh my gosh, that's great.
I'm just glad that we could hold the fort for you whilst you
Yes.
gallivanted
Went off and did other things for 2 minutes. Other things.
We just had to pause it, just couldn't. That vodka, those shots, just really.
But it seems like you guys, and like this isn't a negative thing, but it's like you guys, as far as commercially in the reptile business, are like a few years behind. As far as like we had this era of like whateverness where we were willy nilly and people just kept things and barely bred things and then eventually like commercial companies came around and eventually we had commercial backing. And as far as like USARK exists because of things like ZooMed, Zilla, the large companies that we have.
So this reptile supply companies were part of the reason.
Oh,
we've got that in the UK. We've got that in the UK.
So why haven't you put it to work?
Okay, ARK.
Yeah, okay, Hoss, you can.
I'm sure government works a lot different also.
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
Yeah.
We're probably the wrong people to be talking about this because we just get drunk and talk shit.
Yeah.
But
I've never done that.
Really, there are things in place. So we have the FBH, which is the Federation of British Herpetologists. We also have what's Chris Newman's Repta, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think
Repta's funded by some of the wholesalers and that kind of thing and other companies. But I don't know. Maybe the wrong people are running them. Maybe the hobby's not listening. Maybe
I think we just like to argue more in the UK. Yeah. Honestly, they seem to bicker amongst themselves so much. And
have you not heard of Brexit?
We definitely have heard of that.
Right? Need I explain anymore?
Yeah, that pretty much says it all. I think. Yeah, we're idiots.
Well, it seems like we're always something about the American psyche is like, let's all get together and fight the man. I think that's kind of like our attitude to a lot of things. So.
I wish the British have that attitude. But they don't ever follow it through. We don't have the balls. We could stand in numbers, or we could get anything changed that we really wanted to. Truthfully, we could if we all stopped doing something on the same bloody day or whatever, and said, "Look, we're not doing this anymore." It would get changed, and it would if enough people did it. That just doesn't happen.
But the problem is, I mean, in the UK, we've got so many people that are trying to do the right thing. But going totally over the top with it. So me and Hoss did a little video, and it was a little bit of a joke video to Morelia Python Radio about them coming over to the UK.
Seems pretty serious. Don't undersell yourself. Seems pretty serious.
Yeah. And we was sort of like bench pressing, but like I was just pretending to squat with one of my carpet pythons around my neck, and Hoss was pretending to do arm curls whilst drinking a beer, and we was going, "We're coming for you guys at Morelia Python Radio." And I'm not joking you, we had a couple of people who was going, "The way you was throwing those animals around was disgusting. You're the problem with this hobby." Now, actually, when you watch the video, I probably dropped my body about 4 inches, right? I moved the snake more getting it out of the viv than I actually did in the video. Hoss was literally going, "Oh," and literally moving his hand a couple of inches, but people felt that they needed to go, "This is disgusting the way that you're treating them animals." And it's like, watch the video and tell me at what point was I throwing that animal around, because we was hardly moving them, but it's just that perception. We was doing it on purpose to get that sort of, it's a banter, a bit of banter, but we get that constant in the UK, like people
it's
just wanting to go.
Like, what do you think life is in the wild? I understand you guys don't have that much of a opportunity to field her, but it's like,
but do you think a snake never falls or never?
No. I mean, just even in your But even when you're feeding it in the tank, mine launches from one side of the viv to the other, comes round it, throws itself on the floor, you know, and there's me lifting it, just doing this up and down. Like
my Bismarcks frequently jump out of the viv trying to get the food, and they fall 5 foot on the floor. You know what I mean? And you know what?
There's not a lot you can do about that.
They've been doing that for the last 6 years. They're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
People like to moan because of, you know what? English TV must be rubbish because they've got nothing better to do than to moan.
It is.
It's blame it on the BBC.
It is. Over here we have. So over here we have people that will. I'm probably going to offend more people here, but we have people that go to a sale once a year, right? And they will fight aggressively over a TV. They'll take this TV home, right? And they'll turn their TV on and watch other people watching TV. And then they will moan at their TV about what they are watching on that TV. Right.
I mean, you just explain the American condition. It's the same thing over here. I mean, your average person, Black Friday, they're going to buy something, you know, and fight over it. And we have the same exact thing.
Oh, Black Friday is amazing.
These are the kind of people that you're dealing with. Not those people in particular, but that's the mindset we're dealing with. You know, and there's so much bickering going on within the hobby that actually we couldn't agree on something to change it in bloody Parliament if we wanted to anyway. That's the truth. One person thinks it should be this, another person thinks it should be that. You've got one organisation fighting another organisation. You've got one society fighting another society, and those two societies are fighting one of the other bigger organisations. Then you've got one guy saying it should be this, and it's ridiculous. None of us can come to an agreement.
This isn't Agony Danny, mate. It's
it is. No, we changed it. Remember, this is Reptile and Chill podcast now. those guys fucked off to do their thing.
That time of the week, Agony Danny.
This is all even. We've all dropped off this podcast. Literally everyone.
Whoa! I didn't drop off it. I just took my time.
10 minutes late, dude.
I just took my time getting in.
I think we could solve this quite easily. We could get more women interested in the hobby, and I think that'd sort this shit out.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably.
I personally think we need to go peace and love and all hippie.
Definitely.
I think that's the way forward. If we all start sleeping with each other and just loving each other,
that's the only thing. It's always about the free love, isn't it?
Do you think there's less women in UK reptile hobby than US reptile hobby?
I wouldn't know what it was like in the US, but I mean, we're seeing there's definitely a change in culture over in the UK. There's a lot more women involved in the hobby, but having said that, representing the hobby, probably not as many women as I'd like to see.
I can't think of anyone who's a power or figurehead that is female.
And there should be 100%.
No, yeah. The annoying thing is that there are a couple of female figureheads that would be amazing in that position, like Fran Baines and stuff like that. Someone like her has all the knowledge, all the experience,
she's intellectual, knows how to say,
and knows how to say it, knows how to come across, and those are the kind of people that we need up there to help the other guys that are trying to do it. Chris Newman, in my opinion, he's not perfect. We can all agree on that. But he's doing his best and he's doing a good job, and he's done a good job for a long time, But he can't do it on his own.
But Danny, he's like Marmite. Some people love him, some people
hate him. Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying he's perfect.
He's dropped a bollock in the past, and he'll openly admit that massively, which has offended a lot of people. So they sort of are totally against him. You're in a position there where you're never going to win because there's so many different opinions in the hobby. It's
yeah, it's impossible to represent everyone, correctly with one.
Rightly, someone's going to disagree.
Yeah,
Someone's gonna. You can say. Yeah, I mean, I can say, the sky is blue. Someone's gonna say, nah, it's like a turquoisey. Oh, fuck off. Someone's gonna agree. Someone's gonna disagree with me.
And then, then some hipster bloke's gonna go, "Oh, I'm colourblind."
Yeah, it's actually green. Yeah.
And I think like the chat was talking about it, and it's true because like luckily our like founders in a way, it's like Kathleen Love, Tracy Barker. I feel like our females were like,
we had some badass females back in the day.
Yeah, Tracy Barker, what a lady.
Right off the rip, pretty much had some females, and like Tracy's a legit she knows her
shit.
Herpetologist. Yeah. So it's like, but I feel like over here, man, honestly, we have like almost more females getting into it than males. I feel like it's especially maybe because we have corn snakes. A lot of corn snake keepers are typically female, but we have a lot of.
It's a good amount, but I still agree. There's not a lot of big. There's not because they don't have the ego that the male does. Because the male wants to say, "I'm the fucking shit. Yeah. Look at me, I'm right."
No, I don't need to show my authority and prove that I'm the shit. I just am. You know what I mean? So I've got no ego, and you know what I mean. It's like, Danny's exactly the same. He just is. He doesn't need to throw his opinion down because he's an absolute badass.
Fucking hell.
Sarcasm, obviously.
The problem is that is so much more true than he thinks. Like
that you're a badass.
Oh yeah, totally.
He's a legend in his own lunchbox, guys.
with my Tesco fruit juice, sparkling fruit juice here, absolute badass. Yeah. Have we lost them again? Yeah, so welcome to Reptile N Chill on Sunday night, guys. We're absolutely stoked to be here. Should I say it in an American accent?
No, we're available on all podcasting platforms. So all you American listeners, have a listening to 3 UK guys who...
So, oh my God, guys. We're here with From the Ground Up, the guys. And this is... I'm absolutely stoked to be here. We've got Mike Phelps and Dan Haas and I've lost it. And who have we lost? They've gone off now, haven't they?
They're going to dial back in. So we got to get this going again, guys.
So this is just us then.
So I've now taken onto the chat. So if anyone wants to ask questions, we will try and do our best. Ryan keeps moaning that I'm vaping. What's wrong with me vaping?
Is it because he wants to vape?
So vaping is only it's only water, isn't it? It's water vapor.
No,
flavored water.
It tastes like blackcurrant and licorice. I love it. It's great.
Danny, whilst they're gone, do you want to talk about your collection? So you mentioned it earlier. What's your favourite in your collection? Have you got any favourites?
You can't do that.
I know what it is anyway.
I'm not allowed to say that. I can't answer that.
Can I just quickly say that someone just said that I should smoke cigars like a real American? I'm not quite sure if you've noticed. I'm not American.
and actually, even if he wanted to be, he couldn't because his accents are probably the worst in the world. And mine are crap. Everybody else, but Hoss is. Oh my lord! Come on, Hoss. I think you should bring Eleanor out to answer these questions.
Carly Jones wants to know if any of us are coming over to the US for any of the Carpet Fest shows in 2019 or 20. If Joe and Melissa are willing to pay for our plane tickets, we're coming over.
On a serious
note, not even willing to come on the podcast.
We would love to come over to the US. We can't do it this year. Obviously, we're relatively new setting up our podcast. We've only been going 6 months. We're going to be doing all the UK shows, so Doncaster. We're definitely going to be getting out to Ham at some point. 2020, I would love for us to come over to the US, 100%. So. I might have to pay for these morons to come over, but but yeah, I would love to. We'd love to come over.
Yeah, I can just ask if we do come over, can please be nice to us. We are feeble and weak. Yeah, and I've got feelings, and I don't want to be hurt.
Yeah, he's a 22 stone lump, but he has got feelings.
Darren Watson wants to know how big are blood and short-tail pythons in the UK. There's quite a few knocking about. I wouldn't say there's many people that are concentrating them as a species.
Graham Batterson wasn't it? Yeah.
Stop mentioning his name. He's going to get a big head.
Yeah, so I have to keep telling you this. You can't keep name dropping people like that.
There are people. I would say it's possibly a bigger thing in mainland Europe and in the US, but there are definitely a few people knocking around with them. And apparently, Ryan Cox says that, Mike, you can get a job in America if you're a carpenter. You can definitely sort you out.
I used to be a carpenter, so that's my trade. I haven't been on the tools for I know it since 2002. So.
Oh, he doesn't even know how to swing a hammer now, guys.
Do you know what? I can still do it. Look at these ribs behind me. You can see I can still.
You had them cut by your neighbour.
No, yeah.
The hardest part was done for you. We just screw them together.
My hatchling rack over there made that with my own fair hands.
Yeah, that's not actually that bad. So shut up.
I can still cut a straight line, mate. I can still split a pencil line when I'm using my saw.
Nice. Yeah, we should go over there. Let's move over there. I think Hoss's accent needs working on anyway. So
should we ask the listeners some questions? So, like, I mean, they're quite from the ground up's quite an important podcast to us. It was sort of like something that inspired Hoss to get a podcast set up along with Morelia Python Radio. What do the listeners like about this podcast? You know, is there anything that they love listening to? Is there a reason why they listen to it? Is it for the reptiles? Is it because you like listening to Joe and Melissa having arguments or having a beer or just having a general crack? You know, that'd be nice to know what you like.
So one of the listeners has just said that the only swinging, the only swinging Phelps he does these days is in dogging land.